Hi, guys. Let's talk about playwriting. Before we start, one thing I want you to remember is that this is an opportunity to have fun. Playwriting is really just storytelling where you kind of cut out what the narrator says and you go right for the dialogue that two people say back and forth together. So, the first thing to think about is that you don't want to try to tell the audience some sort of an opinion. You're really just trying to have two characters have a conversation back and forth. And you want to just roll with any of the ideas that you have in the beginning. Don't tell yourself that the idea is stupid, because I promise it's probably not. It's probably actually a great idea. Okay. Don't get stressed out about this. You're going to be writing down a conversation between two characters, and don't say to yourself, I can't think of anything to write. Instead of writing something that is like brand new, sometimes it's a good idea to redo the ending of something that you already love. So if you've got a movie out there that you totally love, you could think of maybe adding in a scene that isn't there already, and then you already have characters that you understand everything about. And then these are actually just examples of plays that a playwright went and wrote, and they were based on something else. Like Hamlet is a really famous Shakespeare play, and this other show called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead is actually based off of Hamlet. Wicked, if you've ever seen that musical or know anything about that musical, it's based on The Wizard of Oz. 10 Things I Hate About You, that's based on The Taming of the Shrew, which is another Shakespeare play. And then if you've ever seen the movie Spaceballs, that is a parody of the movie Star Wars. Okay, so you want to make your play realistic, but not exactly the same as real life, because there's things about real life that aren't super interesting. Like, I don't want to read a play that's just about somebody's trip to Walmart, because that's not super interesting, right? There's got to be something in the story that makes it worth having a play. Be written about it. So don't just write down everything you said in a day and call it a play. You got to use your imagination. Okay. Don't change the type of play that you're writing halfway through. So it's really confusing to the audience. If you set up a magical world, then you want to make sure it stays magical throughout the whole play. And if you set up a realistic world, don't make it have a magical ending. So I don't know if you've ever seen Indiana Jones, but there's three Indiana Jones, 1 through 3, and it totally follows this really. It's this guy who goes on all these adventures, and he's able to do all of these amazing things, and he kind of just keeps getting lucky. But then in Indiana Jones 4, it's interesting that suddenly there's aliens involved, and it's like that was not something that you'd set up in Indiana Jones 1 through 3. So it's kind of annoying. Harry Potter, though, is a great example of how it starts out magical and it is magic through the whole thing. If they suddenly decided at the end that Harry Potter didn't have magical powers, that would be really weird and the audience wouldn't like it. Okay, you want to make your characters have to make difficult decisions. So it's easy to put people into a situation and then kind of give them a conflict and then see what decision they make. So characters should have to choose, should I rescue my child from a burning building or have another chocolate shake? Is that an example of a good choice or a stupid choice? I'm going to say that the answer is that it's a stupid choice, because everybody would choose to rescue their child over having a chocolate shake. But a better decision would be, since I can only carry away one child out of the fire, which one of my children should I choose to rescue? That is a much more difficult decision. And if you have seen Batman, The Dark Knight, that's exactly what happens in that, because Batman has to choose between saving Rachel or saving his friend Harvey, who later becomes Two-Face. and he chooses Rachel, and then it ends up causing a bunch of other things to happen. So you have to have conflict. There is no story if there is no conflict. Most people know Finding Nemo. So in Finding Nemo, the conflict is that Nemo gets abducted. He goes to school, he goes out and he touches the butt, and he's not supposed to, and he gets taken away. There literally is not a story if the only thing that happens in it is that Nemo goes to school, is mad at his dad, and then comes home from school. That's not a story. And Mulan is an example of how she knows that she's trying to do what's right. She has to disobey her father. That's a conflict that she has to face in there. And Mulan just came out again, the live action, and it's so cool to see how hard that decision is for her to make. Speak in realistic language. The way that you talk to your friends is usually the way that we want a play to sound, because we don't want it to sound too professional or too formal. We want it to sound like real people who talk. So instead of saying like, do not, say don't, For the assignment, we are going to do what's called a flash play, which is a 2-page play between 2 characters. And the easiest place to start would be to start with a story you already know and to simply rewrite it. What if you took Little Red Riding Hood and made it so that the wolf didn't die, and Little Red Riding Hood is the one who ends up, she gets eaten as well. And then he goes on, the wolf, to have a conversation with somebody about how he ate Little Red Riding Hood. You can choose any show, anything that you are currently interested in, whether it's Marvel or if it's Cobra Kai, anything that you've been watching, and you are going to add to slightly change something inside of the play. My example that I like is you could rewrite the ending of Romeo and Juliet so that neither of them die and they have a happy ending. And your flash play could be just a 2-page conversation between the two of them while they're like on their honeymoon and they're having smoothies on a Mexican beach. So this is a super fun assignment. It's just 2 pages long. I've included a template, and you are going to just continue on. I've given you the first 2 lines, and you are going to continue on. You can change those lines. They don't have to say what the example says, and they don't have to be the characters in the example, but they should, it should fit this. You should have the same format. You should say the character name with a colon and then what the character says, and then enter, and then the other character's name with a colon, what they say, and then enter. And they just keep talking back and forth. Good luck.